Hello, I'm Corey Hello, and welcome to another episode of Critimation, where I review animated TV shows and films. As always, I do not own any of these films or shows. They are properties of their respected owners. Our first topic for the day is an episode of The Fairly Odd Parents entitled The Boy Who Would Be Queen. The show centers around a boy named Timmy Turner and his two fairy godparents Cosmo and Wanda, and was a very popular show on Nickelodeon, second only to SpongeBob. This particular episode focuses on Timmy trying to find a gift for his love interest Trixie Tang's birthday. After accidentally wishing himself into a girl, he decides to use his new girl brain to find the perfect gift for Trixie. While looking at the mall, he then decides to go in the comic book store. This could be just his boy side coming through, but based on the imagery in his thought bubble, it may just be the girl side of his brain liking sexualized male superheroes in spandex. While in there, he discovers that Trixie Tang is in fact a tomboy, something that she keeps secret from her girlfriends. The two then become besties, more or less, and they hang out at the girls' salon. Well, Trixie reveals that she would date a boy sensitive enough to be able to say, "Hey, I like comics and soap operas." She even states, quote, "If boys did more girl stuff, girls would be able to do more boy stuff." At the end of the day, Trixie reveals she just wants a friend who treats her like a person and not just a girl. After Timmy wishes himself back into the boy on his way to Trixie's party, he reveals that he's willing to be that person who would treat Trixie more like a person and not just another girl. Although Trixie finds this so sweet, she immediately brushes it off for the sake of keeping her popularity. Afterwards, Timmy, having learned a lesson in stereotypes, goes to the bar and has all the women impressed that he's sensitive enough to come in. The episode ends with all the women at the salon and Timmy watching pro wrestling. Considering that this episode was aired in the early 2000s, this really broke a lot of gender stereotype boundaries that were probably in place at the time. And while it is a little jarring to see a gender swap episode outside of anime, I thought this was a pretty progressive episode, especially for a kids show released at that point. Of course, there are some tricky moments, such as Timmy getting back at Cosmo and Wanda by wishing them to be gender swapped as well. But otherwise, it was pretty enjoyable. There's even a B-plot in which Timmy's best friends, Chester and AJ, see him in his girl form, and AJ falls in love with Timmy, much to the objection of Chester, who, thinking in stereotypes, acts kind of sexist towards women. He even goes as far in saying that they're so different that there's a reason they have different bathrooms. My biggest takeaway from this episode is that it shows that people have to treat others as they would want to be treated and not just judge others based upon labels. This episode, I feel, is so iconic that it even inspired a fan comic that you can read on DeviantArt entitled Trixie Restart. It's basically a what-if story that depicts Timmy wishing that Trixie was never popular in the first place, resulting in an alternate timeline in which Trixie decides to stay a tomboy but keeps the fact that she's a girl secret, allowing her to be able to hang out with boys like Timmy and his friends. I would recommend this episode to people who are into gender swap episodes, as well as those who look for hidden gems in early 2000 episodes that are progressive for its time. Our next film we will be covering is entitled Pokémon the Movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. This is the remake to the original Pokémon movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back. And the main difference between it and the original is that evolution is done in CGI rather than hand-drawn animation like the original. The opening involves some scientists finding the fossil of the mythical Pokemon Mew, and then creating a clone of it which becomes Mewtwo. After trashing the lab, the Team Rocket leader Giovanni recruits it and uses it for his own purposes. Eventually Mewtwo, who's been questioning his own existence, in contrast to the English dub of the original film where he just hated humans, finds out and escapes. He then decides to test his powers by recruiting trainers from around the Kanto region, including Ash, Misty, and Brock, who were the protagonists of the Pokemon anime at the time of the original series. After braving a storm, the group, along with 3 other trainers, face off against Mewtwo's clones of Venusaur, Blastoise, and Charizard, and they lose. Mewtwo then creates clones of the other Pokemon, including Pikachu. Mew then arrives, and all the clones fight the originals to the point of exhaustion. Ash tries to stop the fight between Mew and Mewtwo, but gets turned to stone after being caught in the blast, killing him. Pikachu and the other Pokemon start crying and their tears revive him. Touched by this moment, Mewtwo learns that life is only worth living as you make it. He then leaves with the clones and wipes everyone's memories away, thus effectively keeping the film from being referenced in the main canon. Some notable differences between an otherwise shot-for-shot remake is that the script is more faithful to the Japanese dialogue. As mentioned, Mewtwo hates his own existence rather than just the humans who created him. The armor that Giovanni gives him is updated and fitted with restraints that were used to try to keep him from escaping. The pirate-themed trainer that faces off against Ash has an updated design that makes him look more like Jack Sparrow. And one of the Pokemon he uses in the final part of the opening fight is switched out. Instead of Golem, it's Drowsy, as Pikachu's electric attacks would have had no effect against the ground Pokemon, so it made sense. Other changes include no foreshadowing of the Pokemon Teal's healing, as that was not in the Japanese version. The disguises that the Team Rocket trio wear are not over-the-top Vikings, but rather sailors in a Lapras-shaped motorboat. Probably for the sake of being inclusive and not offending anyone. And finally, there are small scenes that are just reminders for audiences who haven't seen certain characters in a while, such as Misty being afraid of Gyarados, Brock flirting with pretty much every girl he meets, and Charizard not listening to Ash at that point. As much as I like the film, I would not recommend it to anyone who dislikes remakes that are just shot for shot and don't offer anything new in comparison to the original. All in all, this seems like an anime to the Disney live-action remakes to their animated films. Other than that, I would indeed recommend this film to people who may have seen the original and want to look at it in a new dimension or format, or at least newer audiences who aren't able to find the original but would like to see something close to it. Our last topic for the day is entitled The Little Mermaid 2 Return to the Sea. This straight-to-video sequel involves the descendant of Ariel and Eric. While celebrating the birth of Ariel's newborn daughter, Melody, The sister of the original film's villain, Ursula, named Morgana, attempts to take the Triton by kidnapping Melody. After she failed, Ariel decides to build a wall around her kingdom, preventing any contact between the mer-people world and the human world. But as the years pass, Melody begins to secretly go into the ocean against her mother's wishes. Her only companion being Sebastian the Crab, who looks after Melody, much like he did for Ariel in the original film. One day, Melody finds a locket that was supposed to be given to her upon her birth, but was thrown into the ocean after Morgana attacked, and she begins to wonder why it has her name on it. When Ariel finds out, Melody gets upset because she is keeping secrets from her, and decides to run away to find out what the locket means. Morgana takes advantage of this and decides to use it as a way to get the Triton, offering to turn Melody into a mermaid in exchange for retrieving it. With the help of a penguin and walrus named Tip and Dash, whom Melody befriends, she is able to retrieve the Triton. But before she could give it to Morgana, Ariel, having been turned back into a mermaid, appears. Despite her pleas to not give the Triton to Morgana, Melody does, and is double-crossed. After being turned back into a human, as the spell cast upon her expires, Morgana forces all the sea creatures to bow to her by use of the Triton. Melody is able to use the fact she is human again to get to Morgana and get the Triton back to King Triton, who then freezes Morgana, defeating her. After the battle is over, King Triton gives Melody a choice on whether she can become a mermaid or stay human. Instead, Melody uses the Triton to reunite the two kingdoms and allow her to interact with both mermaids and humans. The film as a whole is just a retelling of the original film done in reverse, so it's not very original. In fact, I also considered Morgana to be a knockoff of Ursula. The only major difference is that she wants the Triton not just to rule the kingdom, but to prove herself that she is better than Ursula. They even share the same voice actress, Pat Carroll, and I feel like if they actually attempted to give Morgana a different voice actress, she would have been more of a villain in her own right rather than just a copy of the original film's antagonist. The only thing I actually liked about this movie is the character Melody, because when you think about it, Ariel still needed to be rescued by Eric in the film's climax. Melody actually manages to save the day mostly on her own, and when she is able to get the opportunity to get her wish granted, she actually makes a choice and is able to accept herself for who she is. In hindsight, she's actually an improvement over her own mother, as Ariel is just the boundaries between the Disney Renaissance princesses and the original three that were created during Walt's lifetime. This movie is definitely one of the better of the straight-to-Disney sequels, but the only reason I would recommend watching this movie as a whole is because of the character of Melody, particularly because she has a better character development than Ariel, and because it was one of the early roles of her voice actress Tara Strong, who was just starting out at the time. She would later go on to take on roles such as Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls, and a recurring voice actress for Batgirl in the Batman animated series. Thanks for tuning in to Critimation. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter. I'm open to suggestions, and I will see you next time.